Alright guys, today's learning target for lesson 5 is I can decompose unit fractions using area models to show equivalence. So this lesson is very similar to yesterday's lesson. Yesterday we used tape diagrams. Today we're going to use a different way, which is area models, and it's very similar but a little bit different. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you flip to the back, problem 1 says draw an area model showing 1/5. So really, essentially, I'm going to draw a box, and I still want to represent 1/5. Well, if my denominator is 5, I know that I need 5 equal parts. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal parts. And I want to show 1/5. So that means I have to shade in one of those. And I'm going to label that as 1/5. So this looks very similar to what we did yesterday. Okay. Now if you look at A, it says that we're going to split the area model to show 2 rows. So these are columns. If we go horizontal, then we begin to show rows. So the difference is today we're going to be drawing and decomposing by drawing horizontal lines. So if I draw my dotted line across, I have now created 2 rows. So that's what A means, split the area model to show 2 rows. So how much do I have shaded now? Well, I have 2 shaded, but how many parts? Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So actually now I have 2 tenths shaded. So what can we say about 1/5 and 2 tenths? Well, I know that they both take up the same amount of area in one whole. So that tells me that 1/5 and 2 tenths are equivalent. So they are equivalent. Okay? Just like yesterday, we're just showing it a different way. Now I want to write an addition sentence. So remember, we're going to use those unit fractions. We started off with 1/5. So I'm going to write 1/5 equals. Well, what do I have? I don't just have 2 tenths. I have 1/10 plus 1/10. So 1/10 plus 1/10. And that is equal to 2 tenths. So when we write our addition sentence, we want to write what matches our shaded portion. We know that we can write a multiplication sentence from this repeated addition. So again, we started off with 1/5 equals, what fraction did we repeat? We repeated 1/10. How many times did we repeat that? 2 times. So 1/10 times 2 is equal to 2 tenths. And that's about as hard as it gets today, guys. It's supposed to be really easy. It's just showing you a different way to represent equivalent fractions. So let's look at problem number 2. It says draw an area model showing 1/3. So again, we're going to draw a box like we would draw an area model. Now if I want to represent 1/3, my denominator is 3. So I need 3 equal parts. And I need to shade in 1 since my numerator is 1. And I'm going to label this at the top as 1/3. Okay, so that part should be easy. A says to split the area model to show 4 rows. So again, these are columns. If we're going to show rows, we want to split it horizontally. So I want 4 rows. So that means I need to split each third into 4 equal parts. So I'm going to split it in half, and then in half again. So when I do that, do I have 4 equal rows? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I do. So let's see, how much do we have shaded now? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 shaded out of how many equal parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that means we have 4/12 shaded. So underneath here, I can write my fraction of 4/12. What can we say about 1/3 and 4/12? Well, if we look, 1/3 takes up this amount of space, and 4/12 also takes up the same amount of space. Well, since they're taking the same amount of space in one whole, then that means they are equivalent. Okay, they look different, the fractions look different, but they're the same amount. So let's write our addition sentence. We started with 1/3. How did we get to 4/12? Well, we have 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12. So we're going to write that. 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12, and that's equal to 4/12. We can take this repeated addition sentence and change it to multiplication. So again, we know we started with 1/3, and that's equal to, well, what fraction did we write over and over again? We wrote 1/12 over and over again. How many times? 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And we know that that is equal to 4/12. All right, last one. Now it's not telling us how many rows to put, but we need to model and prove that 1/2 can be equal to 5/10. So I need to start with the simplest fraction, which is 1/2. So I'm going to draw my area model, and I'm going to partition it into half. I need to shade in 1 and label it. Okay, now I need to get 5/10, and remember that we're going to draw horizontal lines. So we have to think, if I draw one dotted line across here, is that going to give me 5/10? No, that's going to give me 2/4. So that can't be right. So I need to think, well, if I have a denominator of 2 and I'm trying to get a denominator of 5, well, how do we get from 2 to 5? Well, we know that 2 times 5 would give us 10. So let's check that out. If I draw 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, oops, sorry, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Is that going to give me 5/10? Well, let's count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, it does. So this would be equal to 5/10. So let's show that as an addition sentence. We started off with 1/2, and we said that 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 would give us that half. So 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10. That would still equal a half, but it's also equal to 5/10. So let's change this addition sentence to multiplication. We know that 1/2 is equal to, what fraction did we write over and over again? 1/10. And we wrote it how many times? 5 times. And that is equal to 5/10. Alright guys, so that's it for today's lesson. Go ahead and get started on problem set. When you're finished with problem set, I have a key with the sub that you need to check with a blue pen. No pencils. Do not cheat. Alright, get started.